She moved in silence after the trial, not because she had nothing to say, but because she was listening, watching, learning. She took a job mopping floors in a law office. Most people didn't even look her in the eye. Just another janitor with a rap sheet, they thought. But every night, while the city slept, Nyla was wide awake, reading case files from trash bins, studying law books left open on desks, scribbling notes on napkins during her breaks. And slowly she began to piece it all together. The system that broke her. It was built to break people like her, so she started studying, GED by day, law classes by night, took every free workshop, every online lecture, every second-hand book she could get her hands on. There were nights she slept in her car with a legal textbook for a pillow. Years passed, rejections stacked up. One firm told her flat out, "No one wants a felon-turned-paralegal." Another laughed when she said she wanted to be a judge someday. But then someone noticed. Her name was Judge Helen Moreno, a woman known for being strict but fair. She saw Nyla in the courthouse library one day, correcting a clerk's legal terminology under her breath. Helen didn't scold her. She sat beside her, asked questions, and then said 7 words that changed everything. "Come intern for me. I dare you." That internship, it cracked open the door, and Nyla, she kicked it wide open. It wasn't long before Nyla found herself seated in Judge Moreno's chambers more often than the interns from Ivy League schools. She wasn't just learning, she was advising, and one day, while preparing briefs for an upcoming hearing, she stumbled on something that made her blood run cold. A familiar name, Detective Alan Briggs. The same cop who'd arrested her all those years ago. The same man who'd falsified her police report, planted evidence, and swore under oath that she had resisted arrest. He was the star witness in a massive racketeering case, and his testimony was about to send a dozen young black men to prison for crimes they didn't commit. And just like that, the courtroom wasn't just a place of justice. It became her battlefield. Nyla went to Judge Moreno, hands trembling but eyes locked. "I know this man," she said. "He buried me once. I won't let him do it again." Judge Moreno didn't hesitate. "Prove it." Nyla went back through old files, her own case, old arrest logs, transcripts. She tracked down a retired beat cop who remembered Briggs bragging about making a career out of quick callers. One of those quick callers was Nyla. But it wasn't enough to stop Briggs. Not yet. So she did something no one expected. She requested to testify. Everyone in the courtroom turned when she walked in. No robe, no gavel, just Nyla standing where it all began, only this time not in handcuffs. The prosecutor objected. The defense looked confused. The judge asked, "On what grounds?" Nyla stepped forward, steady and sure. "On the grounds that I was his first lie, and I refuse to be his last." The courtroom fell into stunned silence. Judge Whitaker, a seasoned man with a stern face and a weary heart, looked down at Nyla with curiosity and something else, respect. "You may proceed," he finally said. Nyla took the stand, her voice calm but unwavering. She spoke of that night, how Briggs had twisted her words, how he laughed while cuffing her, how the reports didn't match what really happened. She even pulled out a copy of her original arrest file and laid it beside the police body cam footage that, thanks to her persistence, had finally been released from archives. And then came the bombshell, footage from a gas station camera across the street that had never been entered into evidence in her case. It showed Nyla, scared, hands visible, cooperating. No resistance, no aggression, just fear. The same fear now written on the faces of the young men Briggs had recently arrested. The courtroom shifted. The prosecutor's lips tightened. Judge Whitaker leaned back in his chair, visibly shaken. "What are you saying, Miss Jordan?" the judge asked. "I'm saying," Nyla replied, her voice trembling just enough to feel real, "that if you let this man testify today, you're putting the future of more young black men in the hands of a liar. And I have proof." Murmurs rippled across the room. Outside, media vans started pulling up. Word had gotten out. A former defendant-turned-judicial clerk was exposing systemic corruption in real time. Nyla looked over and saw Briggs' red-faced, jaw clenched. And then, for the first time since she'd met him, afraid. He knew what was coming next. Briggs stood abruptly. "That footage is inadmissible," he barked, but no one moved. Not the bailiff, not the judge. Not even the prosecutor, who now looked like she wanted nothing to do with him. Judge Whittaker folded his hands and stared at Briggs. You swore under oath that all relevant materials had been submitted to the court during your prior cases. Yet here we are. His voice was quiet, but each word struck like a gavel. This is not just oversight. This is willful deception. Briggs stammered. I was following protocol. Nyla turned to the judge again. With your permission, I'd like to submit an affidavit signed by 3 other public defenders. All of them handled cases involving Officer Briggs. All of them were pressured to advise their clients to take plea deals, even when evidence was questionable or missing. The judge nodded slowly. Submit it. Gasps echoed through the courtroom as the documents passed from hand to hand. One of the public defenders was sitting right there, Attorney Malik Green, a respected figure in the community. I was one of them, he said, rising from the gallery, and I regret it every day. Nyla's heart pounded. This wasn't just about her anymore. It hadn't been for a long time. This was about the system that almost broke her, and how she'd learned to bend it back toward justice. Then came a voice from the back. I got something too. Heads turned as a man in a faded hoodie stepped forward. He looked nervous, but determined. Briggs arrested me 5 years ago, said I was trespassing. I was in my own building. Ain't nobody listened back then, but I kept the footage from the lobby cam. It's on my phone. More people stood up. A ripple effect. One by one, former defendants, lawyers, and community members began to speak. What started as a court hearing had turned into a reckoning, and Nyla was at the center of it all, no longer in handcuffs, no longer the accused. Now she was the one leading the charge. The judge called for order, but the room pulsed with energy, something electric, something unstoppable. Just as Nyla thought it couldn't escalate further, the courtroom doors swung open, and walked a tall, composed woman in a dark navy suit. She carried herself with a presence that immediately silenced the murmurs. The press cameras turned. Even Judge Whittaker leaned forward. The woman addressed the court with authority. My name is Special Investigator Carmen Rhodes, Department of Justice, she announced. I've been leading a quiet investigation into Officer Briggs and a ring of officials suspected of case-fixing, coerced testimonies, and evidence suppression. Ms. Nyla Freeman's wrongful arrest triggered a red flag that brought us here. Briggs turned pale. What is this? He stammered. Rhodes continued unfazed. You're not just a bad cop, Mr. Briggs. You're part of a pattern. And we have enough evidence to indict you, and at least 4 others in your department. The courtroom exploded again. Only this time, it was the sound of justice catching up to corruption. And then, something even Nyla didn't expect. Rhodes turned toward her. Ms. Freeman, we also uncovered sealed documents. Your mother's case from 15 years ago. Hampered. She was innocent. Nyla's knees buckled slightly. Her mother. The woman who'd raised her to stand tall in the face of everything. The woman who'd died believing the system had crushed her. She didn't do it, Nyla whispered. No, and you proving it, by exposing the same system that failed her, is the most poetic form of justice I've ever seen. The courtroom was still, a beat. Then Judge Whittaker stood. I've seen many things in this room, but I've never seen a defendant walk in shackled by lies and walk out unchained, carrying the truth. He looked down from the bench. I have one more announcement. The judge raised his gavel but paused, eyes still fixed on Nyla. As of today, he said, the charges against Ms. Freeman are dropped, her record is cleared, and her name is restored. The gavel slammed down, but before anyone could breathe, he added, one more thing. After reviewing her credentials, moral character, and the magnitude of what she just uncovered, I've submitted a recommendation to the Judicial Committee. He looked directly at her. Ms. Freeman, would you do this court the honor of accepting an appointment as our new district court judge? Gasps filled the room. Nyla, stunned, felt her legs tremble beneath her. A slow tear rolled down her cheek, not of sorrow, but of justice fulfilled, of a legacy reclaimed. The same courtroom that once tried to break her, now crowned her. As she turned, she saw her mother's photo in the hands of a reporter. Someone had found it in her belongings. She nodded toward it with pride. The chains that once bound her were gone. Now she wore a robe, and justice wore her name. Don't forget to subscribe to Dark Side of Luna for more powerful stories like this one. Your support helps us shine a light on the untold and the unforgettable.